Welcome, Divine Mandate. This narrative starts with someone who doesn't realize how important peace is until the person who brought it to them leaves, not with vengeance or anger, but with the quiet catastrophe that is unfolding in someone's life because your reply was stronger than they thought it would be and louder than they thought it would be. You know, everyone has a breaking point, but here's a psychological reality that most people don't like to admit. The mind has a harder time dealing with regret than it does with failure. And right now, someone is dealing with the type of remorse that makes it hard for them to sleep at night, staring at the ceiling and going over every time they hurt you. This individual is having a hard time with life, not because you punished them, but because life eventually took away the things that kept them from being responsible. When the universe does the work for you, it feels different, particularly when life has a wicked sense of humor and impeccable timing. One day, they're doing everything and acting like they don't need you. The following day, they search for things like can stress cause sudden hair loss? And why am I overthinking everything? Because the get back they didn't see coming is the one they're experiencing right now. And the best thing is that they believed you would fall apart without them. They really thought that losing them would ruin your whole life. In the meanwhile, you're over there leveling up, sipping water, and not caring about anything else. It seems like a spiritual strategy meeting, but here is where things become interesting. Your absence showed every flaw they tried to hide, every weakness they tried to deny, and every reality they tried to avoid. It's not an accident that their lives is falling apart. It's going apart because the person who kept everything calm, stable, and clear eventually left. And now they're confronting themselves without the protection you gave them without even knowing it. The get back wasn't payback. The get back was a step forward. And nothing, absolutely nothing, breaks a person quicker than seeing someone they thought they could reach become someone they can't. Let's speak about why this person is falling apart, why your success is shaking their foundation, and why life is ripping them apart in ways they never thought possible. The reality behind their breakdown is deeper, more shocking, and far more revealing than they could ever say out loud. First, their mind isn't tormented by what you did. It's tortured by what you didn't break. They're coming apart not because of what you did to them, but because of what you wouldn't let them destroy in you. They tried for so long to dominate you, trick you, get you angry, and press your buttons, hoping they could find a way to get to you or show you how weak you were. They thought something bad would happen, like a breakdown or a meltdown, that would show that the storm they unleashed into your life was finally having an impact. But you made it through. You stayed strong, and no matter what they did to you, you didn't fall apart. That unwavering calm is now their curse. It's easy to see why they're falling apart. Someone who feeds on chaos and control can't face the idea that the person they wanted to break is still standing. They can't stand that you remained complete while they lost control of you. Their mind continues going over every time they tried to shrug you off. Every time they believed they could control how you felt or what you did, and every time they attempted to make you feel hopeless. They can't stop thinking about how they squandered all the time and effort without getting anything done. They can't get away from it, and it's far worse than if they had broken you. Failure and impotence together are like a pressure cooker for the psyche. Their pain isn't coming from the outside, it's coming from the inside and won't stop. They can't stop thinking about how you were untouchable where they believed they would leave marks. Every time they thought they had an advantage, it only shows how pointless their efforts were. They had to face the truth. You were never the issue. They could never keep you under control, and their plan to take you down failed miserably. That failure hurts their pride, stops them from sleeping, and makes their mind race. The storm in their head only becomes worse, since they can't mend what was never damaged. And while they spiral, you keep going, free and unshaken, a living example of strength. Their pain is a sign of your strength, a subtle way of saying that no matter how hard they tried, they could never take away the honesty, calmness, and constant presence that made you strong in the first place. Number 2, they figured out too late that they needed you to be stable, not the other way around. They are falling apart because the silent power they depended on, the power they never knew you had, has gone away. They behaved like you were the one who needed them, that they were the most important part of the relationship or circumstance, while in fact it was the other way around. You bore more than your fair part of the burden, which was sometimes emotional, mental, or even physical. You made their messes better, took their anger, and carried their worries without saying a word. Most people can't see that type of steadiness until it goes away. And now that they don't have your balance, their lives is falling apart. The sad thing for them is that they thought you were weak while you were really strong. They thought you needed them to live, work, and be stable. But the reality is, you never needed them. You never needed them to live, be happy, or develop. That understanding is what is breaking them apart. They believed they were important, but you were the one keeping everything in order while they drifted in the storm they made. They're learning how much of their so-called stability came from your discipline, patience, and restraint now that you're not around. Nah, all of a sudden, the life they believed was theirs is displaying all the cracks they sought to cover. Their pain is worse because they can't get what you gave them back. You can't just make stability, consistency, and groundedness happen at the last minute or force them to happen. You have to build it, earn it, or, in your case, have it naturally. It's more than embarrassing to see the mayhem, the cost rising around them, while you keep going without being affected. It's a visceral reminder that they were never in charge. They needed you to be calm, but you didn't need them. The truth hurts more than any punishment. Every night they can't sleep, every idea that goes around in their head, and every moment of terror is because they took their safety for granted and can't get to it anymore. They're learning the hard way that the person they thought was weak was never the weak link. You were the silent anchor they couldn't see, and now that you're gone, the world they thought they controlled is falling apart, and they can't do anything about the repercussions they never saw coming. Free, your development made them face the elements of themselves that they could no longer ignore. They're coming apart because your growth has made their defects too big to overlook. For years, they were able to make excuses, defend their actions, and tell themselves that their flaws didn't matter. They could live in denial because you put up with, adjusted to, and made up for their flaws. But everything changed as you grew up. Every step you took toward self-mastery, every limit you established, and every achievement you had made others feel less normal about themselves. All of a sudden, the mask they wore so confidently began to fall, and they were hit with a huge surge of self-confrontation that they weren't ready for. They can't help but see your metamorphosis as a mirror. The same person who ridiculed your choices, questioned your value, or attempted to make you feel bad about your work, is now forced to look at their own flaws. When you compare their bad behavior, laziness, dishonesty, arrogance, and emotional manipulation to your own discipline, clarity, and honesty, it becomes much worse. They never anticipated that your success would make their lack of progress so obvious, and the pain is too much to endure. They keep thinking about the times they might have other things, the chances they missed, and how you've become a living example of the life they don't want to live. The depth of their battle comes from understanding. They're not angry at you, they're mad at themselves for being caught. You can't change the reality that your development showed. They settled for less, put up with turmoil, and didn't grow when you were growing. Blaming the world, other people, or circumstances won't change that. Now their pride, ego, and self-image are in danger because the person they thought was weak is doing well without them. The success they want to dismiss or downplay is now the proof they can't get away from. And every time they look at how far you've come, they are reminded that they are the ones who are falling apart. Your progress didn't simply make you better. It also showed them portions of themselves they attempted to conceal. And looking at that mirror is breaking them down in ways they never thought possible, leaving them vulnerable, restless, and painfully aware of the person they could never be. Number 4. Life is giving them back the weight they placed on you. They are falling apart because everything they put on you is coming back with interest. They used you as an emotional and mental crutch for years, putting their duties, expectations, and burdens on you that were never yours to put on them. They thought your strength, patience, and stability were endless, and they never thought about the fact that they may run out one day. Life is no longer giving them a free pass now that things have changed. The instability they believed only impacted you is coming back around, and they can't take it because they never learned how to bear it themselves. Every promise they broke, every difficulty they gave you, and every expectation they thought you would achieve without question, is now coming back to them in their own life. And here's the harsh truth. It wasn't only about being kind or forgiving when you bore their burden. It was also about how strong you were to keep the system running. Without you, there's nothing to soften the blow. Because of their negligence, sloth, and manipulation, they are now living a life that requires them to be responsible, something they were never ready for. That hefty weight is making it hard for them to breathe, messing up their routines, putting a strain on their relationships, and showing how much they depended on you to keep things in balance. The anguish they experience is worse because it's not just an idea. It's real and can't be denied. They can't shift the blame or responsibility onto someone else for how bad things are becoming. The life they took for granted, while you worked hard to stabilize, it is now pushing on them from all sides. And the irony never ends. The things they used to do to control, annoy, or hurt you are now the things they have to deal with on their own. Every restless night, every unexpected crisis, and every annoyance is a reminder that they built a house of turmoil on someone else's strength, which is now gone. Their pain shows that what they believed was innocuous carelessness has significant effects. Life has a way of balancing things out, and in this instance, it's having them deal with the full weight of what they did to you. And they're falling apart because they never learned how to carry it themselves. Number 5. They didn't have their favorite way to avoid dealing with their own problems while you weren't around. They are falling apart because you stopped being the cushion, the getaway, and the diversion that let them forget their own problems. For a long time, you were always there for them to vent to, cover up their errors, and help them through the storms they wouldn't confront. Your patience and presence were like a safety net that let them live carelessly, emotionally, without thinking about the consequences, and without being held accountable. Once that safety net was gone, life smacked them with the harsh truth they had always tried to avoid. The issues they hid with your energy, time, and emotional labor are now unavoidable, and they are becoming worse since no one else is available to help. The worst thing is that your absence didn't simply take you away physically. It also took away the justification and the outlet they needed. Every habit they put off, every duty they put off, and every reality they avoided is there in front of them. They can't blame you for their mistakes anymore, and they can't rent, manipulate, or rely on someone else's stability to hide their own weaknesses anymore. Life is making them face themselves, and that fight is ripping them apart since they never learned how to deal with it. It's not simply uncomfortable, it's a deep, constant pressure that gets worse every day. Their mind continues going over the routines they used to avoid making bad choices, not dealing with their feelings, not finishing their task, and letting chaos define them. If you don't step in, every consequence will happen right away and can't be avoided. They're looking at themselves without permission, and that self-awareness is too much for them to handle. The irony is strong. They thought that as long as you were there, things would always be easy for them. But when you left, they lost their crutch and saw how empty their control was. They're falling apart because they finally have to deal with the disaster they made, and you don't have to do anything to make it happen. Your absence alone is the most harsh punishment they've ever had to deal with, and it's too much for them to manage. 6. They are being crushed by the fact that you weren't the issue. The reality they never wanted to see has finally struck them, and now they are breaking apart. You were never the source of the problems in their life. The continual stress, the failures, and the unhappiness, they blamed you for their rage, irritation, and insecurity for years. They held you accountable for things you didn't do, for results you didn't affect, and for the stress they were feeling. Now that things are clearer, they have to confront the hard truth. It was never you. It was always them. That knowledge is painful because it takes away the easy target. They used to make excuses for their actions and put off thinking about themselves. The despair comes from the fact that they've put so much effort into attempting to control or shatter you, believing that if they could repair you, everything would fall into place. They thought that your choices, words, and actions were the cause of their troubles. Therefore, they spent a lot of time, energy, and emotions trying to control, test, and undermine you. But none of it worked since you were never the one who caused the problems. And now that they can't use that handy excuse anymore, they have to face their own ineptitude, recklessness, and lack of self-awareness. They can't stop their minds from racing as they attempt to find someone else to blame. But every road leads back to the fact they've been avoiding for a long time. They made their own disaster. This is why life is so hard for them. It's hard to deal with things outside of you, But it's much harder to know that the storm has always been within of you. They can't stop thinking about the chances they missed, the awful decisions they made, and the times they might have accepted responsibility but instead blamed you. Every recollection of attempting to repair you now seems like a waste of time. And that waste is a reminder of how they failed. You, on the other hand, went on without their guilt hanging over you, without having to defend yourself or explain why you were here. Your strength and clarity stand out against their uncertainty and failure. You didn't punish them by making them realize the reality that they can't escape. You were never the issue, and now that reality is the hardest thing they've ever had to deal with. Number 7. Your comeback showed that the way they saw you was wrong. They're falling apart because the picture they made of you, the version of you they persuaded themselves was real, has been broken. For years, they told themselves and perhaps even other people that you were weak, unreliable, easy to manipulate, or unable to handle life on your own. That story became their shield, a mental barrier that let them treat you badly, misjudge you, and manipulate you without feeling guilty or responsible. They thought you were little, confined, and easy to control. But your response fully shattered that fantasy, and now the reality is striking them harder than they ever thought it would. The issue for them isn't that you're doing well, it's that the real you goes against everything they convinced themselves. Every success, every moment of calm, and every choice taken with clarity and courage shows that they never truly knew you. They made up a tale about you that made their own actions look okay. And when that tale falls apart, their mind doesn't simply freak out, it breaks. They're having a hard time since the person they believed they could manage, define, or belittle is now completely out of their grasp. The quickness and elegance of your return make it much worse for them. You didn't simply become better. You became better in ways that showed how wrong they were, how limited they were, and how little they could do to change your course. Every step you take ahead is a reminder of how wrong they were. They're becoming more and more frustrated, because no matter how hard they try to make their expectations match up with reality, the facts continues showing them that they are incorrect. And the worst thing is that you didn't have to fight, debate, or explain yourself. Your life, your progress, and your strength are enough to break down the story they made. They're left with nothing but the sound of their own wrong ideas. They realized too late that they were never in control, never really understood you, and now they can't do anything as the person they misunderstood grows beyond what they thought was possible. Number 8. They never thought you would outgrow the part they gave you. They're falling apart because they thought you would remain inside the restrictions they established for you for years. They saw you as a character in their story, the forgiving one, the silent one, the one who would always go along with their turmoil, accept their errors, and play the part they wanted you to play. They depended on you being predictable and utilized that to feel safe, never thinking that you were growing beyond what they had planned. When you stopped being that person, they lost all sense of control and were left feeling panicked, bewildered, and completely unprepared for who you were becoming. They are falling apart so quickly because they were happy with a version of you that was constrained by what they expected. They never believed you would question the story they told, and they never anticipated you would go beyond the limits they felt would define your existence. Nah, everything you do, every achievement you claim, and every line you draw goes against the character they gave you. That paradox is unending and makes everything unstable. They are left looking at someone they thought they knew, only to find out they were mistaken about everything. They know that your progress shows how stagnant they are, and that's what hurts them the most. While they were attempting to put you in a box, you were silently becoming stronger, clearer, and more resilient. They are short-sighted and depend on managing others instead of developing themselves, since they can see how you will change. They now see that the power they believed they had was never theirs to use, and that the power they thought they had, because you were tiny, was only an illusion. This one painful fact is what makes them scared, angry, and frustrated. You are no longer the person they sought to control. They didn't expect you to be this way, someone who sets standards, demands respect, and won't let their expectations hold you back. And seeing you do well in a life they never thought you would have is a reminder that the person they sought to control is now impenetrable, unstoppable, and entirely beyond the role they previously played. Number 9. They're breaking because you finally set limits that match their intensity. They're falling apart because For the first time, you stopped taking anything they said and began reacting on your own terms. For years, they strained your patience, stretched your limitations, and took for granted the grace you gave them, expecting you to always be there for them. No matter what, they thought that no matter how poisonous, demanding, or irresponsible they were, you would keep giving without question, make every blow less painful, and make up for every failure. But as soon as you started setting obvious limits on their energy, the power dynamic changed, and they didn't know what to do. They fell apart because they were shocked to find out that the regulations had changed. They believed they could dominate, trick, or annoy you forever, but suddenly, their plans don't work anymore. The same energy that used to control you is now being met with resistance, structure, and restrictions, which is throwing them off balance in ways that nothing else could. They aren't accustomed to being held accountable. So when you finally do it, without being aggressive or making a big deal out of it, it hurts them harder than any fight ever could. You're not assaulting them, you're just being strong, and that rigidity is scarier beyond anything they could have imagined. The instability they thought would trap you is now hurting them because they thought you would do what they wanted. Now that it's gone, they have to deal with the consequences of their actions. Every time they yell, or try to get you angry, it shows how immature, selfish, and irresponsible they are, which they never wanted to face, and because they never learned how to deal with the consequences. The pressure of your boundaries is breaking them down from the inside out. They can't stand it even more when you calmly implement these rules. You are not begging, panicking, or trying to prove anything. You are just keeping your standards, keeping your peace, and moving on. They never intended to learn this lesson, but seeing you work with clarity and control as they become more and more confused and angry is a lesson that hurts more than any punishment from the outside could. They are falling apart because of your limits, and there is nothing they can do to stop it. 10. They're having a hard time because power has moved to the side of self-respect. They are falling apart because the balance of power has completely changed, and the side that is in charge is no longer the one that feeds their ego. For years, they took advantage of your patience, your forgiveness, and your willingness to change for them. That made them feel like they were in charge and could control how things went and stay ahead. They thought that their energy, drama, and manipulation were enough to keep you in check, predictable, and under their control. But everything changed when you took back your self-respect, set limits, and refused to give up your dignity. They are shocked, which makes their struggle more intense. They don't know how to deal with someone who won't follow their rules. They thought you would do what they said, put up with it, and take it all in because that's what they were used to. But self-respect is not something you can negotiate, and it doesn't ask for permission. You didn't fight them hard, you just took back your space, your peace, and your power, and now they have to deal with the fact that the energy they used to use to control you doesn't work anymore. They can't get their power back no matter what they do, which makes them angry, helpless, and very upset. They are even more upset that your presence makes things so easy for them compared to how hard they're working. As they try to regain control, plan, and change the outcomes, you move forward with clarity and calm. The change in power isn't loud or aggressive, it's steady, clear, and seen in your calm confidence. They can't argue with, negotiate with, or undermine it. They are falling apart because the loudest, angriest, or most manipulative people don't have power anymore. The person who protects their dignity, respects their own boundaries, and won't let anyone make them feel less valuable now has power. And the truth is killing them, because they never learned how to live in a world where respect for others is more important than power. Your rise is what caused their fall, and they never thought it would be this bad to watch it happen. Number 11. Your healing took away the power their pain had over you. They are falling apart because the one thing they could use to control you, your weakness, doesn't work the same way anymore. For years, they used your wounds, insecurities, and past mistakes as tools, subtle weapons to manipulate your emotions, guilt you into action, or keep you tethered to their chaos. They thrived on the idea that as long as you carried pain, confusion, or doubt, they could influence your decisions and then situations to their advantage. But when you committed to your own healing, the leverage they depended on vanished, leaving them powerless in ways they never expected. The reason this is so devastating for them is that they mistook your pain for weakness. They assumed that as long as you carried the scars they helped inflict, they would always hold sway over your life. But healing doesn't just patch wounds, it transforms the way you interact with the world and with people who once hurt you. Your clarity, strength, and self-respect now create a barrier they cannot penetrate. Every manipulative tactic they try is ineffective because the energy they once drew from your pain is no longer there. You became untouchable, not because you retaliated, but because you restored your own power. Their collapse comes from shock and frustration. They cannot reconcile the fact that the very thing they used to dominate you is no longer accessible. They are faced with a reality where their influence is gone, and no amount of guilt-tripping, arguing, or scheming can bring it back. For the first time, they are exposed to the full consequence of their actions. They cannot control, manipulate, or diminish you anymore. And the most crushing part, you didn't need to prove anything or fight back. Your healing alone dismantled the system they built to control you. Watching you thrive, while they struggle to regain footing, is proof that the power they once held was never truly theirs. Your recovery became their reckoning, and it's breaking them in ways they never imagined. The person they thought they had leverage over is now completely free, and that freedom is their undoing. Number 12. They can't handle that their worst didn't bring out your worst. They are falling apart because everything they expected to provoke in you, bitterness, anger, revenge, or despair, never appeared. For years, they pushed, tested, and hurt you, assuming that at some point your pain would mirror their own toxicity. They believed that if they were cruel, careless, or manipulative enough, you would eventually snap, lash out, or degrade yourself to their level. But nothing they did had the intended effect. Instead of breaking you, their worst behavior revealed your strength, patience, and resilience. And that realization is unraveling them in ways they never imagined. Their collapse comes from the shock of understanding that they cannot control or dictate your reactions. Every attempt to ignite chaos in your life ended up highlighting the discipline, integrity, and emotional intelligence you carried quietly all along. The person they expected to crumble is instead standing taller, calmer, and stronger than ever, leaving them frustrated and powerless. They are not just disappointed, they are enraged by the fact that their tactics are ineffective against someone who refuses to mirror their toxicity. What makes it even worse for them is that your strength is not aggressive. It doesn't seek to dominate or humiliate. Your calm and composed handling of their worst behavior acts as a mirror, showing them not only that you are unshaken, but also exposing their own instability and inability to handle life with any semblance of control. They wanted you to mirror their chaos so they could feel justified, superior, or victorious. Instead, your stability proves that their worst actions say more about them than they ever wanted to admit. Every failed attempt to drag you down now eats at their ego and self-perception. They are trapped in the reality that your rise is organic, unprovoked by their misdeeds, and unstoppable. Your ability to absorb their worst without letting it define you is a direct reflection of power and resilience they cannot comprehend. And that is exactly why their world is spiraling. They expected to break you, but you stayed unbroken. And that truth is far heavier than any punishment they could have ever imagined. Number 13. They're suffering because they never thought you would recover faster than them. They are unraveling because they never anticipated that you would rebound, rebuild, and rise faster than they could. For years, they assumed that the challenges, betrayals, and pressure they placed on you would slow you down, keep you trapped, or leave you struggling for far longer than they themselves would have survived. They believed that if anyone crumbled under the weight of life's storms, it would be you. But life had a different plan, and their assumptions are now the very thing destroying them. Watching you recover and thrive, while they remain stuck in the consequences of their own actions, is a psychological blow they never prepared for. The core of their unraveling lies in envy mixed with disbelief. They expected time and hardship to work in their favor to prolong your struggles while they coasted through. But your resilience disproved that entire narrative. Every step you take forward, every boundary you enforce, every success you achieve is a reminder that they miscalculated your strength. They are forced to confront the fact that their attempts to hold power, delay your progress, or undermine your confidence didn't just fail, they backfired. Their pride, which relied on the illusion of control over your life, is now under siege. What's devastating for them is that your speed of recovery highlights their own stagnation. While they are still grappling with consequences, replaying past mistakes, or drowning in excuses, you are moving forward with clarity and purpose. Their inability to match your progress becomes impossible to ignore, and every glance at your stability, your achievements, and your composure serves as a mirror reflecting their shortcomings. They're trapped in the painful reality that the person they underestimated is now outperforming, outlasting, and outgrowing them. They never thought you would recover faster, and that misjudgment is tearing them apart. Their suffering is not about what you did to them. It is about the truth they cannot accept. You healed, evolved, and thrived while they are still tangled in the consequences of their own actions, powerless to regain the upper hand they once assumed was theirs. Number 14. Your strength removed their favorite excuse for staying weak. They are crumbling because your unwavering strength exposed the truth they've been running from for years. Their weakness is entirely their own. For so long, they relied on the idea that you were struggling, vulnerable, or dependent as a way to justify their own inaction. They told themselves that as long as you were carrying burdens, bending under pressure, or absorbing their chaos, it was acceptable for them to remain stagnant, irresponsible, and emotionally unaccountable. Your resilience and refusal to be broken destroyed that illusion completely, leaving them exposed and helpless. The intensity of their unraveling comes from the realization that they can no longer use you as a benchmark for their excuses. Every failure, every lack of progress, every moment of regret is now mirrored against your strength, your discipline, and your ability to rise above. They are forced to see that the reason they haven't grown, evolved, or mastered themselves isn't circumstance, isn't fate, and isn't the chaos around them. It's their own unwillingness to confront reality and take responsibility. Your success and composure act as a spotlight on their weaknesses, highlighting every way they have chosen comfort over courage and delay over action. What makes this collapse even more agonizing for them is that your strength isn't loud or aggressive. You didn't announce your victories, retaliate, or try to prove yourself. You simply became unshakable, consistent, and forward-moving. And that silent power is more cutting than any confrontation. It's a constant, unavoidable reminder that the only thing standing between them and growth is themselves. Their unraveling is the consequence of confronting a truth they never wanted to face. They are not victims of circumstance. They are prisoners of their own choices. Your strength removed the crutch they leaned on for justification and left them exposed to the full weight of their inaction. Watching you thrive, unaffected by their chaos, is a reality they cannot manipulate or escape, and that is why their world is collapsing around them. Your presence, your evolution, and your power have become the harshest truth they have ever had to endure. The story of the chosen one isn't about revenge. It's not about retaliation or proving anyone wrong or waiting for karma to play out. It's about truth, resilience, and the quiet, undeniable power of someone who refuses to be broken. Every point we've explored reveals the same reality. Life doesn't just test you for punishment. It tests you to reveal your strength, your clarity, and your ability to rise beyond expectation. The people who tried to manipulate, control, or underestimate you are not crumbling because of what you did to them. They are crumbling because your existence, your growth, and your unshakable strength expose the flaws, weaknesses, and choices they've been hiding from themselves. You've seen how your resilience has stripped away their excuses, how your healing destroyed their leverage, and how your growth shattered the lies they built about you. You've witnessed how your boundaries, self-respect, and evolution have left them powerless, confused, and undone. Every failed attempt they made to control your life, to provoke a reaction, or to keep you small has come back on them in a way they never anticipated. Life has a way of restoring balance, and in this case, the balance doesn't reward them for their efforts. It rewards you for your strength, your clarity, and your refusal to be anything less than fully yourself. This is more than a victory. It's a revelation. The power you carry is silent yet unstoppable, quiet yet undeniable. And every day you move forward, it leaves a mark they cannot erase or control. Their unraveling is not your triumph over them. It's life showing them what they were never willing to see, a mirror reflecting their own choices while you continue to rise. You are living proof that true strength isn't about fighting. It's about existing fully, authentically, and without compromise. If this message hit you deep and revealed truths you needed to see, don't just leave it here. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss the insights that will continue to elevate you. Like this video to show your energy aligns with strength. Comment below to share your story or your reaction, and share it with someone who needs to understand the power of rising above. This is more than content. It's a reminder that your strength shapes reality, and the people who tried to shake you will always feel the weight of your revolution. Keep rising, keep evolving, and let the world witness your unstoppable power. God bless you.